Ever get that feeling, when you open a document, see a wall of text, and just think, ugh, do I have to?
Oh, tell me about it. Happens all the time.
Well, today we're facing down 87 pages of pure New York City Council goodness. It's the stated meeting minutes, March 7th, 2024. Don't worry, we'll make it painless, even fun.
We're not afraid of a little dense reading around here, are we?
Not a chance. We're also here to spare you the headache and dig out the good stuff. Think of it as like, panning for gold.
I like that. And there are definitely some nuggets in these minutes.
Heated debates, surprising new laws, even a sneak peek at a massive development project.
The kind of stuff that shapes your daily life, but often flies under the radar.
Exactly. So, to kick things off, can you give us a quick refresher? What is a stated meeting in this context?
Sure, it's basically the regular gathering of the entire city council. They vote on laws, cash out important city issues, the big stage for a local government.
Right. And looking at these minutes, this particular meeting had a full house. Well, almost. 51 council members, but not everyone made the roll call, did they?
Nope, looks like we had a few absences. Councilmember De La Rosa, Councilmember Moya, and Councilmember One were all out for various reasons.
And each absence has a real impact, right? It's not just a matter of being there to vote yes or no.
Definitely not. Each council member represents a huge number of people, their constituents, so even one missing voice can change the game.
Makes you realize how much weight each vote carries. Speaking of weighty matters, let's talk money. The budget discussion got interesting this time around.
Interesting is one way to put it.
We're diving into the council's operating budget specifically. Communications M00029-2024 and Resolution 0258-2024 if you're following along at home.
Passed with a solid 47 votes, but there was a holdout.
Councilmember Yeager, looking at you, one lone vote against. What made this budget so controversial? It's not every day we see that, especially with something as, I don't know, seemingly dry as OTPS allocations.
You're right, that is unusual. And for our listeners who aren't fluent in budget speak, OTPS means other than personal services. It's basically everything besides salaries and benefits.
Well, the stuff that keeps the lights on, metaphorically speaking.
Exactly. Office supplies, tech upgrades, that kind of thing. Essential, but not always exciting.
But even if it's not as flashy as, say, a new park proposal, those OTPS details can reveal a lot, like where the council's priorities lie.
100%. It's a peek behind the curtain at how they're planning to use resources, what they're prioritizing for the year. In this case, the emphasis on technology upgrades and community outreach, that's significant.
Okay, so break that down for us. What's the story behind those priorities, and what might it tell us about that lone no vote from Councilmember Yeager?
Well, the increased tech funding, it could mean they're pushing for a more modern approach to city services. Maybe a more responsive 311 system, better online access to resources, that kind of thing. And on the community side, well, that increased funding could translate to more resources for local organizations, senior centers, youth programs, things that directly benefit, real people in the community.
So potentially a difference you could actually feel in your neighborhood. And voting against that, is Councilmember Yeager sending a message maybe about being more fiscally conservative?
It's definitely possible. He's known for taking a hard look at spending, so, it's worth looking into. See what his voting record is on similar issues, what he's saying publicly, that kind of thing.
Good point. One dissenting vote could spark a whole other deep dive. But we've got a lot more ground to cover with these meeting minutes.
Right. Where to next?
Let's shift gears from the budget to something a little more, I don't know, tangible. Local laws. And this meeting did not disappoint.
They really packed it in, didn't they?
For sure. One that caught my eye deals with regulating advertising in for-hire vehicles. Intro 0172-2024. If you're following along in the minutes, we're talking about those screens you see in taxis, ride shares.
Ah, yes. The battle for your attention continues, even when you're just trying to get from point A to point B.
Right. Like, is there anywhere you can escape ads these days? But seriously, it's an interesting one to bring up. It kind of makes you think about the whole debate over public space and how much commercialization is too much.
Absolutely. It's a slippery slope. And speaking of hot-button issues, Intro 0555-2024 is tackling licensing requirements for tenant screening bureaus. With the rental market the way it is, This one could have some serious consequences.
Yeah, tenant screenings like this black box for a lot of people, it's a huge part of finding a place to live, but there's also so much potential for abuse.
Exactly. So this legislation seems to be trying to bring some more transparency and accountability to the process, which could be a big win for, well, everyone involved, really, renters and landlords.
Now, that would be a game changer for sure. But okay, hold on to your hats because Intro 0560-2024, this one's dedicated to all the sleep-deprived New Yorkers out there.
Let me guess. Regulating those darn gas-powered leaf blowers.
You got it. The dream of sleeping past 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning just getting a little bit closer. And judging by the number of sponsors who signed onto this bill, it's clearly a popular one.
You know, it seems like such a small thing on the surface, but it speaks to the council's role in these quality of life issues, the things that might not make national news but drive people crazy on a daily basis.
It's local government doing what it does best. And speaking of local, remember how we talked about each council member representing the unique needs of their district? This next part is a perfect example of that in action.
Oh yeah, lay it on me.
Looks like they approved a few landmark designations during this meeting. One in particular stood out to me, the Joseph Rodman Drake Park and Enslaved People's Burial Ground.
Wow. Powerful. A real reminder of, the layers of history that we walk past every day without even realizing it. This isn't just about preserving a park. It's about, acknowledging the past, making sure those stories are told.
Absolutely. And speaking of preserving the past while looking to the future, the council also approved applications for a new primary school in the Bronx LU 00029-2024 and Resolution 0265-2024.
Always good news when a new school gets the green light. Shows a real investment in the future, the kids.
Yeah.
Plus, this one's set to have 547 seats, so it's going to make a difference for a lot of families.
That's amazing to think that one meeting can cover so much ground, from, preserving history to building for the future.
But this next topic, this one's a doozy.
Oh, I live for the doozies. Hit me.
This is the kind of project that could reshape an entire section of the city. We're talking about Willets Point Phase 2. And before you ask, no, it's not just about baseball. This is way bigger.
Willets Point, huh? Okay, now that is interesting. It's been this weird mix of industrial stuff, vacant lots, and, the home of the Mets. But it sounds like things are about to change in a big way.
Big is an understatement. Buried in these minutes are clues about multiple complex applications related to this development from LU 00030-2024 all the way through LU 0034-2024. It sounds like they're pulling out all the stops. What kind of changes are we talking exactly?
Think zoning changes, special permits, even city map amendments, the works. And those are more than just bureaucratic hurdles.
Right, absolutely not. This is how the city gets made. These are the tools that literally shape the physical landscape of New York. And it sounds like they're using every tool in the box on Willets Point.
So imagine this. Instead of those auto repair shops and empty lots, picture this. Residential towers, bustling businesses, maybe even a waterfront park. That's the vision.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty dramatic shift. But what does all that actually mean, practically speaking? What are these zoning changes, permits, all that? What do they actually do?
Right, because to most people, it just sounds like jargon. So break it down. Let's start with zoning.
Okay, so zoning dictates what types of buildings can be built in a certain area,
Right.
It determines things like how dense the buildings can be, how tall they can be, even the architectural style sometimes.
So in this case, instead of sprawling parking lots and industrial buildings, we might see those sleek high-rises and trendy cafes popping up.
Exactly. But it's not just about aesthetics. Zoning can impact everything from traffic flow to how much sunlight reaches the street. Now throw in special permits, and things get even more interesting. Right, so think of special permits like exceptions to the rules. Let's say you want to build a taller building to take advantage of some amazing views, or maybe create a big public plaza within the development. That's where a special permit comes in.
Okay, so you've got the zoning, setting the ground rules, and then the special permits, adding these specific tweaks and adjustments to the plan. But what about those city map amendments? That sounds like they're redrawing the lines of the city. Are we going to need new maps for Willets Point?
Not quite. I mean, city map amendments can involve things like renaming streets, but in this case, it's more about fine-tuning the boundaries of streets and blocks, making room for all the new stuff. So think maybe creating new pedestrian walkways, widening existing roads, or even carving out space for that waterfront park we were talking about.
Wow. It's kind of mind-blowing to think that decisions made in these meetings, which can seem, I don't know, kind of dry and technical from the outside, they have the power to actually reshape the physical reality of the city. It's pretty amazing.
It really is. But it's important to remember that with any big change, there are always, questions and concerns.
For sure. Like, what happens to the existing businesses in Willets Point, the people who live there now?
Exactly. These are the kinds of conversations that come up a lot with urban development. It's a delicate balance between, progress and preserving what's already there.
Right. And, those conversations, those are ones that I'll continue long after we finish this deep dive.
100%.
But for now, I think it's time to come up for air, as they say.
Take a deep breath.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the inner workings of the city budget to the drama of local laws to this massive undertaking that is the Willets Point redevelopment. It's been quite a journey through the world of New York City governance.
A reminder that even in a city as big and let's face it, complicated as New York, it's possible to understand how things work, to make your voice heard.
Right. Because these decisions, they affect all of us, whether we realize it or not.
Every single day.
So to our listeners, next time you walk down the street, take a moment to look around. Maybe that new park you're strolling through, or the lack of leaf blower noise on a Saturday morning. Those might just be the result of a decision made in a meeting like the one we talked about today.
And who knows, maybe you'll be inspired to dive into those meeting minutes yourself, uncover the stories behind the scenes of your city.
Because that's what this is all about, right? Staying curious, staying engaged, and realizing that we all have a role to play in shaping the future of New York City.
Hear, hear.
Until next time, stay curious, New York.